All homes are financeable, right? I want to buy a home, I'm looking to get a mortgage, and so any home on the market would be a good home for me. Surprisingly, that is not the case. Many homes are not financeable. We're going to get into it in this video. I'm Mitchell, your heels on the ground in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. And on this channel, we're going to talk about everything probate, guardianship, senior relocation, out-of-state sellers, and a lot of real estate. So, financing. When a seller goes to sell a home, often we have them fill out a seller's disclosure. They're not required in Florida, but they are recommended, I would say. Recently, I had a seller fill out a seller's disclosure, and one of the questions was, does your home have polybutylene pipes? The seller said no. Well, the house went under contract and the buyer had an inspection done. The inspector came back, and in the inspection, the house indeed did have polybutylene pipes. It wasn't fraud because the seller had no idea that the house had polybutylene pipes. They didn't even know what polybutylene pipes were, which I didn't either until several years ago when we started seeing this more and more. Polybutylene pipes were installed, I believe, in like the 80s and 90s. And the challenge with them is often at the seam, they will develop little pinprick openings, causing water to start shooting out of them. Well, you can see over time, if you have water coming out of the pipes in your walls, under your sink, that would not be a good thing. And so insurance companies started disallowing polybutylene pipes to be insured. Without insurance, you cannot get a mortgage. So what started out as a very simple, smooth sale wound up killing the deal. The seller went and got estimates. It was in excess of $30,000 to have polybutylene pipes replaced. The buyer just did not want to wait the amount of time that it would take to have this done. They also didn't want to take a credit and have it done after closing. And you might say, Ellen, how could you get insurance? You just told me that you can't get insurance and close a deal with polybutylene pipes. So how could it have been done after closing? Sometimes with some insurance companies, they will take it as long as the buyer has a contract and money set aside to have that repair done after closing. And then the insurance company will send someone within 60 days or 90 days after closing to re-inspect and make sure that the pipes were redone. That's only one of the reasons that you may not be able to get financing on a home. Another is the age of the roof. As we've had more and more roof claims in the state of Florida, it used to be that you needed to have 3 to 5 years left of what they call useful life of a roof. Now what's happening is you can have a shingle roof that's completely leak-free, no problems. The inspector could give it 3 to 5 years of useful life, but due to the age of the roof, the property is uninsurable. We've had that happen quite a bit more recently. And so I've had to have sellers, and it's a difficult conversation to have with a seller, that the house isn't going to be financeable because of the age of the roof, even though the seller has kept on top of the roof, they've had it maintained, it's leak-free, and an inspector tells them they have another 3 to 5 years of useful life, that they're going to have that roof replaced in order for the buyer to get financing, insurance, which would give them financing, or, as in the case with the poly pipes, that they would have a contract signed with a roofing company, the money set aside, and after closing, that the roof would be replaced, the property would be re-inspected, and the insurance company would be satisfied. It's all these little things that it's so important to know ahead of time to be able to see around the corners. But in the case of the seller with the polybutylene pipes, they truly had no idea that the home had poly pipes, and there probably wasn't a way to avoid that, except if they had had a home inspection done prior to listing the home on the market. It is something that I've recommended and that I do recommend to all of my sellers. Let's have the property inspected before we go on the market so that we make sure that we don't have any surprises and that the inspection period does not become a second negotiation period or doesn't blow the deal up. In this instance, had they had the property inspected prior to going on the market, the inspector would have seen the polybutylene pipes and they would have had this knowledge ahead of time. They would have been able to either replace the pipes or offer a buyer a credit, having already gotten estimates for that repair. But it took the seller by surprise, it took the buyer by surprise, and everybody was just very upset, went their own ways, and it blew the deal. Also, the roof has to be leak-free. So we had a house, we're actually going to be videotaping out there later today. We had a house where the roof was a newer barrel tile roof, but it did have a small leak. Well, we did the inspection prior to listing the home for sale and found out that it had a small leak. It was about a $4,000 repair, but they were able to go ahead and give the home 16 more years of useful life on the roof. So it went from not being financeable because it had an active roof leak to having a roof report saying that it has 16 more years of life on the roof, completely financeable. There are so many other different scenarios that we see, leaks. A lot of these things, as I said, they can be determined ahead of time. We can take care of them ahead of time and not have them come up during the inspection period, which then becomes a second negotiation and can sometimes blow up the deal. So what you don't know can hurt you. It is really why I strongly recommend that every seller get a pre-listing inspection. If you have any questions about this subject or anything else, please comment, like, and subscribe. I do read all of the comments, and if you have suggestions for future episodes, I always look at them and want to provide the content that you feel would be useful and important to you. If you have any follow-up questions, I'm very easy to reach. I'll be seeing you soon.